Yeah. Ooh, we're back. Wow. Welcome. It is Sunday. I am Fred Wellman, host of Too Late to Cancel, right here live on the Anomoxy channel, everywhere else. It's so great to have you guys here. We are thrilled to be here with you guys. Another great Sunday. A little crazy here in my hometown. We're actually going to do some actual news to talk about that. In the meantime, before we start, man, all the favorites are showing up. Hi, gang. It's so good to see everybody. Remember, smash that YouTube button. Let's subscribe now. If you're on Substack, it's thrilled to see you guys here. We love our Substack friends. It's growing like crazy. We'll talk about that some more later. But make sure before we get started, you do cool stuff. Yes, we have Ken Casey of Dropkick Murphys here to talk. Honestly, this is the coolest show. I am pretty excited. You guys know, if you guys watch the show, I get a fangirl out like almost every time we interview some of these folks. And Ken Casey was no exception on this one. So, but it is so much going on right now. I'm thrilled to be here with you. A little bit of weird note starting off. We actually had news this week. So our youth correspondent Kyler is off in Colorado on vacation right now, but we actually had news in St. Louis. If you guys know, I'm broadcasting from St. Louis. Producer Katie and I are both here in St. Louis. We had a crazy week. If you heard, Friday afternoon, right as bus pickup time was occurring for kids at school, we had a huge tornadoes go through. It was incredible. I was watching it live unfold. My fiance was actually out shopping, had to abandon her shopping cart and take cover in a parking garage. It was crazy. The videos of it all. And look, tornadoes hit the St. Louis region often. It was funny. I was talking about it on Twitter. It's actually not funny because people are dicks. But, I mentioned that we've never had a tornado hit this spot, and all these what about people are like, actually, you do have. I'm like, no tornadoes ever hit the Central West End part of St. Louis, Clayton part of St. Louis. This is the downtown areas of the county of St. Louis and the city of St. Louis with massive buildings. The fact these tornadoes started right over Clayton, the seat of the county, then made its way across our beautiful historic Forest Park, where one of our world-class zoo is located, historic homes in the Central West End, then into the not as historic and not as, actually historic, but not as built up area of our North City where some of our folks live. It was just a monster storm. We're now hearing it was an EF3 tornado that came through, almost hitting downtown St. Louis. This thing missed the city. It missed the arch, for God's sake, by about 1.5 miles, y'all. It was as big as a full mile wide. Okay, it was crazy at one point, EF3. So look, I took it upon myself to do a little journalism. It was best I could do. You guys know I'm not a professional, I'm just a dude. But I took an opportunity. I got a call from a friend of mine, Joe Peerless, who ran for state senate last cycle. Was a wonderful human being. He has worked with the Red Cross for 3 decades. Joe texted me and said, "Hey, we're running a shelter down here at Grace United Methodist Church in the central, near the Central West End." Good folks, and I just drove down there to interview folks. This is the funny part of the story. I did all these videos, then handed them to JJ this morning about an hour ago. So anyways, JJ wants to murder me, but nonetheless, being JJ, he pulled together a package. I want to show you this story a little bit about the good people. Now, the good news is, while we did lose a few people here in St. Louis, we lost 5 people in St. Louis, 5,000 homes damaged. But this is the good news story. The city, like it always does, came together in a moment. And here we go. So here, JJ, I trust you. Let's run the package I created. So here at Grace United Methodist Church in the Central West End of St. Louis, as you guys know, we had a huge tornado this week in St. Louis, actually 2 apparently. And my friend Joe Peerless, who is leader of the Red Cross, reached out to me, told me he's setting up a shelter here at Grace United Methodist Church. You can see behind us, they're setting up a food pickup. With me is Ted Deering. Ted, what's your job here?
I am the lay leader and the head of the leadership group.
So things happened fast, didn't they? You guys were chilling out and then the storm hit. Tell us how this whole developed so fast.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, first off, we've never served as a storm shelter before, so This was brand new for us. And we have actually a church member that works for the Red Cross, and apparently there were problems with a couple of the other shelters. And she called us and said, "Okay, we need a shelter. Will you do it?" And we have a great, energetic pastor, and she said, sure, that'd be great. It's like, we're happy to do it. And then she texted me, and I said, okay, yeah. It's like, well, we can do it. It's like, let's go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, the storms only hit at about 2:45 in the afternoon. You had people here in the evening, didn't you?
Yeah, it sort of came together about 7 o'clock or so, that they had an inspector come out to check out to see if we were okay, and had bathrooms and running water, and then they started bringing supplies in and cots and everything else. And there were only a handful of us here last night, but it just sort of quickly came together. People started coming. The sheriff's office brought a handful of people. I'm not sure. I think they were from like a home or something that got damaged. So there were 7 or 8 sheriff's deputies bringing people. So.
Yeah.
And so it slowly came together, and we said, okay, we'll do it.
And you started off, you said you left last night, and there was 17, 15 people. How made it up here last night?
Yeah, so I was here like at 11:30, and it's like, okay, there's only 15, 17 people here. It's like, oh, that's no big deal. We can handle this. And then through the night, the people trickled in. Apparently, the people were being released from the hospital, and they were bringing them here. And so all night, apparently, there was a steady trickle. And we wound up with 77 people staying here last night.
Okay, I'm with my friend Joe Peerless, who's with the Red Cross. Joe, tell us a little bit about your work with Red Cross.
Well, this is my 39th year of being a volunteer.
Jeez.
And it's been both locally, nationally, internationally. And we had a disaster in St. Louis. I'm a member of the local disaster action team, and here I am working a shelter.
So how did this whole thing unfold? I mean, we had the storm about 2:45 yesterday. I'm looking behind us. I see damage in the house right behind us. There's even tiles damage in the church here. How does this work? How did this whole thing unfold as it for you guys?
We're part of a database. We had response requests go out to see who among the disaster action team members were available and when their availability was. So I put in that I was available this weekend, and Carla Templeton, who is somebody who I work with, sent out an email at 2:10 this morning. I was sleeping. When I woke up at 4:45, I saw the email, and they said, hey, if you can be at the chapter between 6 and 8, please show up. I got there about 6:30, and they sent me down here.
And things have unfolded fast. I mean, they've got the shelter set up. I talked to Ted about having the 70 people last night. And Schnooks, I mean, and they showed up with food. I mean,
they were great. I mean, in fact, Todd Schnook was here with a bunch of his team.
The actual Schnooks to the Schnooks.
And I've known Todd for years, and they brought the van. They brought lunch. They're bringing in dinner. A lot of
and nobody asked. They just stepped up, right?
They just stepped up. I mean, that's what's great about St. Louis.
Isn't that the story? That's the story.
When there's a problem, everybody just chips in.
Right. And you don't necessarily have to ask. They're going to show up for you. And everybody jokes about the Midwest nice thing, but it really is a thing, right? It is. And to see this in an area that's never been hit by a storm like this. I mean, in the history of it, it was shocking. While I was at home safely south of this, watching it unfold, but it was pretty shocking as it unfolded, wasn't it?
It was unbelievable because you don't expect it in St. Louis. You expect it outside, in Sikeston and in smaller areas, but never in St.Louis, and everybody's rallying around to help everybody out.
So how can people help? How can people help the Red Cross? How that can help Grace United Methodist Church here on Skanker and Waterman?
Grace Methodist has got a website. You can donate. They've got a food bank. They've been just absolutely tremendous. Red Cross, redcross.org. Make donations. We've got disasters all over the place.
Kentucky got hit the same storm pretty bad.
Exactly. So we're out here. We don't rely on federal dollars. It's all individual dollars and corporations and foundations that support us. And if people want to donate, we would greatly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, Joe. So thanks for talking.
Thanks, Fred.
To me. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
That was easy. Perfect. That was nice. And I understand local grocery chain is the Schnooks. You guys have probably heard of Schnooks Groceries. They're from St. Louis. They stepped up. I mean, I see the food back. I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but there's plenty of food back here, bagged already. They brought bagged food, didn't they?
They've been incredible. They're the Schnooks, the local grocery store, and they've been extremely generous. They bagged up. Apparently, their employees got together and bagged up bags of like snacks and fruit and water, and they had it all set, and they sort of declared us to be a distribution center. We didn't know we were going to be a distribution center.
Funny how things work out.
But we did that, and they brought that in. They brought in lunch for everyone. They had sandwiches, and they had chips and fruit for everyone in the volunteers. So they've been very generous. They brought us a lot of food, and we still have a lot. But
and I think that's the story. I kind of wanted. That's the reason I came down here in the middle of all this. I mean, it's a very St. Louis Midwestern thing, but probably everywhere. But disaster struck at a place there's never been a storm here before had this like this. I mean, in this neighborhood, this is a historic. These trees are 100 years old, aren't they?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in the area, not very far from here, and some of us aren't really afraid of tornadoes because they never come through here.
Yeah, it never comes this way.
No, it always skirts around us. So this was really unusual, and we were lucky the church had power. There's no power in the neighborhood right to the east. There's no power on the other side of the street.
Wow.
And I have no power at my house. The minister doesn't have power at her house. So, but there's power here, and we thought, well, this is our chance to help the community, and everyone stepped right up. The church has been very supportive. We've had lots of volunteers from the church, and what's really cool is we've had neighbors. The people next door came over last night. Okay, what can we do to help? And people have been bringing food by, and they say, what else do you need? And they go back to the store and buy more stuff, and just people not associated with the church at all. It's just the generosity has been overwhelming, or people volunteering. It's like they come in, it's like, I want to help. Give me something to do.
Do you guys need any more help? Could I get my viewers to send you some money, or do you need anything at all? You got what you need right now.
Well, money always helps.
All right.
We've had to deplete our food pantry stuff, and it's administrative expense. We've had staff overtime, but we're willing to do it, and God finds a way. Our church is very lucky. We have generous people, but we always can use the donations because it's the event's going to cost us money, and I think everyone's they're going to be here for another 5 or 6 days. I think before they close up.
Power could be out for days. We have no idea how long it's going to be.
I hope
think
not.
5,000 houses were damaged. I think total 5,000 houses.
Yeah,
so
and there were. Bad. I heard last night like 90,000 people without power in the area, something like that. Yeah. So. Wow. Including me, so I'm hoping it'll be all before too long.
All right, well, thanks so much, Ted. Appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate the time, and we'll put the link up to the website and get you guys some donations. So.
Great.
All right, cool. We're here for it. Thank you. Hi, I'm near the central west end of St. Louis, the Forest Park area, famous part of the St. Louis area, just short of where the tornado. This is where the tornado pretty much started. The damage you can see behind me is pretty devastating. Literally, this folks' fence is in their tree. The trees are all torn down. All the power's out. We're standing near down power lines. It's shocking, really, because literally a block over, there's hardly any damage at all. But here, it looks like a vacuum cleaner went through here. Somebody just cut down everything. It's really shocking when you really change into the disaster zone. It's good to see folks coming together. They're working together. We're going over to the church. It's really just an amazing situation. It is kind of hard to comprehend until you see it. Hey guys, too late to cancel here at Grace United Methodist Church in the central west end of St. Louis.
Yeah, it was shocking. I didn't want to be down there as a gawker, just wandering around and poking around. Got down to I went down there and checked it out. It is shocking. I grew up here in St. Louis. That area, I lived there when I first moved back 4 years ago, and frankly, it was. You'd say these kind of things are heartbreaking, shocking. It's shocking. I don't know if you heard 5,000 homes damaged in St. Louis, but really too was shocking is these 200-year-old trees. St. Louis is famous for its bricks. We were a brick city, and you could see most of the buildings in that area are all brick. They withstood it pretty well considering, but you had top floors ripped off of buildings, the trees landing on buildings, cars being crushed. One beloved gentleman who owned a food truck here in the city was killed when a tree landed on his car. His car. It's just shocking. And then even for me, I used to run and walk. Well, let's be honest. I walk around Forest Park, one whole stretch of the north side of our beautiful park. It's built by the same guy that designed Central Park. All trees were stripped for about a mile. It's really quite a scene to see. But look, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, honestly, what shocked me, and this thing about tornadoes, you grew up in a place like Missouri, is it's just random. I mean, someone was commenting that it literally it's a block difference. If that tornado had gone a block and a half, literally not a mile, not a half, but 1.5 blocks south, it would have taken out the biggest hospital in the area, Washington University, BJC's hospital. I mean, it missed by 2 blocks. So we did get very lucky. It's hard to see that sometimes when you're looking at the devastation. But tornadoes never bulldozed through that part of the city before, and it shows just how much the systems are changing. So I wanted to present that to you. It's not a high note, but again, the positive one is the community coming together. I'll give you an example. We had planned, a number of us are organizers in town. I wasn't part of it, but a number of the organizers in St. Louis had planned a big protest for Saturday, and in typical fashion, they canceled the protest, had all the volunteers report to the 2 or 3 shelters downtown, and then especially the north side of St. Louis, where some of our less well-off folks live, and volunteered and brought food down. And then I did want to mention one more time, Schnucks is a local grocery chain. Todd Schnook himself came down. I mean, when the tornado hit, they just came in on their own. All their employees started bagging groceries, bagging up food for everybody, and then just on the next morning, just started driving out to all the shelters and dropping food off. It was really a wonderful scene to see how communities come together. So, not the highest note, but it was good to see. It was good to see everybody come together, and I'm just really appreciate that. So now let's get on with the show. This is the coolest part. Actually, this is the first cool part, because the other cool part is Brittany and Eliza joining us. But first, you guys know Dropkick Murphys. If you don't know Dropkick Murphys, founded in 1996, Boston Celtic punk band. Ken Casey is their iconic frontman. He's been with them since the very beginning. They've never hidden their views of things. You may have seen them go viral just recently during their St. Patrick's Day show, when a gentleman was wearing MAGA gear in the audience, and Ken called him out. They ended up exchanging videos, and actually Ken tells the story, so I'm not going to waste more time. I will be honest, we did record this a couple days later because it's Ken Casey and he's performing concerts all the time, and they will be performing at the Unite for Veterans, Unite for America a rally that I'm one of the organizers for on June 6th, and that's why I got to talk to Ken Casey. Let's talk to Ken Casey now. Ken Casey, welcome to Too Late to Cancel. What an honor and a pleasure it is to have you here, brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Let's go. I mean, obviously, you guys got a lot going on. You've been going, what, 30 years now? 1996 with the band. I mean, what a time. And the remarkable roots of your punk music. It still seems to kind of resonate 30 years later, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the things we were singing about when we started, we kind of like in the mid 1990s, the Boston punk scene was at a peak, and surrounding the venue that we called the Rat, which was our version of CBGB's here, and it's not there anymore. Like so many of the great venues, and so many local bands that we started with that were just there was such support, and all of us would fill in the places. And that's really how we got our start to be able to tour, because all these bands, on a DIY level, all these bands from other cities would all want to come play Boston. Yeah. If you played with Dropkick Murphys, or if you played with the Ducky Boys or the Trouble or the Unseen, all these other Boston punk bands, you were going to play to a great crowd, and then they'd owe us a show in their city, and that's how it started. The difference between us is we were a few years older. We were like mid-20s when we were starting, and we had already been working in labor unions and just lived a little bit more life. And so we wanted to be the band that kind of sung about like real life and our real experiences, and a lot of that was singing about looking back on even just how the Reagan era dismantled unions and stuff. And so when you look back at it from the beginning, it almost seems like that was all like a trial run for where we are today, and so now so when people say like, once you shut up and sing, it's like, no, this is why we started the band. Shut up and sing now. Everything else is just a dress rehearsal for this. So, the majority of our fan base understands that. And then a lot of them also get it, but they've conveniently forgot, because they were lockstep with us 10, 12 years ago. But as this shit happened where the right somehow, did the classic divide and conquer that the wealthy and the corporate greed people always do, divide the working class. And suddenly Republicans all cared more about how the oligarchs are doing. And people that were long-term fans that I know where we've stood all along, and what we've said all along was suddenly off at us, and I say, no, you don't have the right to act surprised. You're just conveniently changing the narrative.
Well, I was thinking when it was fun, I was getting ready for the show. One recurring thing you've talked about, the real political divide in America isn't red and blue as much as working class elite, unions, bosses. You become known as icons, the working man, representing your Quincy and South Side roots. You've never shied away from that. I mean, you have to be fucking asleep at the wheel to think you ever shied away from that. But what I found fascinating is that continues to be the theme, and here we are now. That really is the fucking theme. As we'll be, June 6th. We'll be, by the way, so the reason we're talking is you guys are going to headline Unite for Veterans, Unite for America rally. But there we are in DC as Elon Musk, and Doge, and the biggest cabinet full of billionaires in American history, the richest cabinet in history, is doing exactly that, fighting, hurting the working class while they sweep up more money, isn't it?
The right has done a good job of trying to paint, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or whoever, as the elite. And I'm not saying some of those people aren't. I mean, I think to a degree, all people in politics will, obviously, all people in power of any way will try to use it. You know what I mean? I'm not here to defend any Democrats either. I'm not, I'm a Democrat basically because I want to vote on the side that doesn't vote against free lunches for kids, you know what I mean? And doesn't vote for sending people to prison in foreign countries, you know what I mean? But for the most part, I just our politics in the band are shouldn't be controversial. It didn't used to be controversial. It's just look out for people, give everyone a chance and a fair shake. And, that might sound naive, but if that's the goal that you're shooting for, really, should it be that hard to get somewhere in that? You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of this democracy. We'll go to the ballot box and we'll vote. And sometimes it's going to go this way. Sometimes it's going to go a little this way. But now it's going, crazy. What? The Constitution is just being ripped up. And, people are willing to because they've got so caught up in these divisive hot button issues of the day, whether it be, trans athletes or something else that really on the scope of things. I'm not saying it's not important in one way or another, but I'm just saying, I think our former governor who now runs the NCAA, Charlie Baker, testified before Congress that it was less than 10 athletes at the college level, right?
Total, not a percent. Total. Ever.
And that is what is, topic number one. When debate, when it's just we're all off base, and man, I just wish we could. I wish more than anything, and this might be naive, but I wish we could all come back together and have a little bit, a little less us versus them, and a little just a little more sanity back. But I can put my head on the pillow at night, no matter what anyone might say or how they might come at the band. I feel like we're doing the right thing, Well,
that's it, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we were talking the pre-show about, my dad's a World War II vet. You've got, it is which side you want to be on. And it really is. It is cliche. I'm a veteran. It's cliche to, what are you going to tell your kids when there was the big war, right? And this is the big war of the moment, right? Do you want to tell them that you shrank from the moment, or do you want to say you stood up? And you guys, especially yourself, have stood up. You're standing up with us. You're doing all that. I found that fascinating too, because you guys are getting ready to draw. I think you're working a new album, a couple new songs out. It was funny. You'll love it. I found a story from it was one of the older stories about the band. People talking about, man, you guys dropped a song and it was so timely, and it was about Iraq, the bombing of Iraq. And what it is how often you guys, your themes haven't changed in 30 years, right? 29 years. It's timely because it's still the same fight, isn't it? I mean, and now here we are. I mean, you talk all the time about there's no kings in America. As you and I are filming this interview, fucking Trump is in Qatar trying to get a jet, right? Hanging out with, I mean, fuck,
Yeah, we shouldn't be laughing, but it's comical. It's if it wasn't so sad and scary, it would be hilarious. You know what I mean? Because, our message has never changed. Our view has never changed. And that's why it's a lot easier. When I said, aside from right and wrong, putting my head on the pillow, it was a debate. I go, hey, All I know is I've just been saying this. So there's two things I know in life. I've had the same haircut for 30, 40 years, and I've had the same politics and whatever. I don't know who's changing with the wind, you know.
I changed more than you have, brother. I'm gonna tell you, I used to be one of them, you know. And then I got out of the army and woke up. You know, it's a tough time, and like you got like your new song. You were at the I guess Hands Off March in Boston. You played the new song, which is a fucking banger, by the way. You know, I got a preview of that.
Sirens it sounds very electric. We played it acoustic.
I love it, man. Yeah, it's gonna be great. But you're standing up for the fight right now. You're coming to Unite for Veterans is Veterans March. You know, you guys have always stood up for cops and service members. How is that? Is that thread through your family growing up, or what drove you to be so supportive of the veteran military community and the cop community?
I mean, just
what happened?
What happened?
Hey, how's it going? I don't know. You jumped. We're back on. Hi, JJ. Ken Casey, welcome to Too Late to Cancel. What an honor.
And a lot of them and family and friends, and we just showed up, and so we would show up for I guess the nature of like the role we took in Boston, which is very community based, you know what I mean? Like, we're from here, and and people would say, can you show up at this? And you say, yeah, sure. I mean, to come and just show up, or to play a song acoustic, the effect, the positive effect it has versus the hassle it might be for us to organize it is like, the positives outweigh it just so much that we've always just been involved in that. And people would invite us to, I remember 2 Boston firemen, passed away in the line of duty, and we played outside the Union Hall, and the families were there crying. And I'm just like, man, how amazing is it for us to be like thought of in a position to be invited and wanted in a part of the community in that way. And obviously prefer it not to be at a, something sad like that, but oftentimes, it has been. And, so we've been there for all sides of, supporting veterans and first responders. And so we just feel like we're just continuing the work we've always done. And now just the volume's raised and the sides are all twisted up, and, so we're just who we are. And we've never really been ones that like to shy away from controversy. I mean, the band's career, coming up as a punk band, in a lot of parts of the country, with Nazi skinhead populations that would come, we've always been on the front lines of that beef. So it's nothing new to us, you know what I mean? And before, those guys were coming out of the woodwork, and now it's like they're marching through our city streets, you know what I mean? And we're not down with it. We never have been. So, like, once again, whether it's Nazis marching in the street, or whether it's literal Nazis marching in the street, or the ones in government that certainly aren't, the ones in government that are saying there's good people on both sides, we're ready to speak up against all of that,
my son was a National Guardsman at the Unite the Right rally down there in Virginia, Charlottesville, and he was one. They put National Guard military policemen to surround the statue, right? And I was at home. I was living in Virginia and watching that whole thing unfold. Wow. And you're right. That night we hear from Trump, like, well, it was good people. I was like, I watched my son. I was long. I sent that kid to combat too, and my own son was, how it is. It runs the families. My son's a veteran. My dad, and that was one of the. I say it all the time, man. That was like one of the toughest days of my life as a father, was watching a riot unfold with my son-in-law in the middle of it. Every now and then you catch a glimpse of him, you know what I mean? Oh. And I appreciate you guys, because you do it. And it's not punk necessarily to support the cops, but and those fuckers tried to use one of your songs a couple years ago, didn't they? I mean, and you weren't holding back, were you?
Yeah, we tried to have a little meet up with them over that, and they didn't show up. So
weird, right?
And listen, and by the way, as much as we support veterans and first responders, but we'll also speak up, when a cop oversteps their boundaries. You know what I mean? And I guess part of being a punk rocker, and also like you know, I've been in recovery for 3 decades, right? So there's a little part of me there that's like the criminal's still in there, and the rebellious punks in there. So like when I see a cop abuse their power, I'm the first to speak up and say, "Fuck, that's bullshit too." You know what I mean? Like, and it's like good people treat people well and respect people doing their job, and just like everyone I know that's men and women that have served the country, they're usually the most mad when someone abuses their,
Right.
their power in the military as well, So
There you go.
Yeah. Whatever. We're just, we're who we are, you know what I mean? And somehow we're always making someone mad on one side or the other. But we're who we are.
Well, that's it, and that's the thread. I mean, again, and that's what makes you guys. I think that's why you're still going strong. As the punk scene's changed, the musical taste has changed. We're all in our 50s now. I mean, shit, this is the, but you're right. It is, if you've seen your moral compass and you've kept that on true north this whole time. What's interesting in our lifetimes, because I'm actually just a little older than you, is how the moral times have changed, but the compass has stayed the same, right? And now you find yourself now when you say, hey, the working class guy, the right dividing us. Now we're actually talking about the president and his very rabid supporters who, the viral videos you giving them shit in the audience, but you're always fair to them. It's like, no, we you said something really telling though in the last interview, and I'll have to let you go, is what I really liked is that you pointed out after that incident with the MAGA guy, there's a lot more things that unite us than at this point, right? I mean, in a lot of ways.
I had a great conversation with that guy after the show.
You said that, yeah.
And I have grown to think that most MAGA types that are the type that would wear the hat to our show, be in the front row. They also had a blow up of Trump's head. So they were there to mix it up. And I have grown to assume that person is beyond reproach. You know what I mean? Yeah. They don't want to converse. They want to get it. And he was a gentleman, and he said, hey, I don't agree with your politics, but I've been a fan of your band for 20 years. I consider you family, and I don't let politics divide family. And I was like, wow, I needed to hear that, because I need to remember that, that we're not enemies. You know what I mean? I mean, some of them I wouldn't read with, I don't, and when I say them, I mean some of them doing the stuff, the people in power, the Trump, the Musk, the, little Stevie Miller there or whatever the fuck his name.
Oh, Jesus.
But
Timu Nosferatu.
The people that believe it, somewhere along the line, I think there's some that I would never get along with, but I think there's some that the only difference between me and them is maybe the parent that raised them or the TV channel that happened to be on in their house, So, so I'd like to think that we could all come back or come closer to coming back together as a country someday,
Yeah, I joke all the time. I want to go back to the days we sat in the bleacher seats. I grew up in Busch Stadium here in St. Louis. I know you grew up in Boston. I didn't know whose politics was sitting either outside of me. I didn't fucking care. I just worried about the game.
I'll tell you, when my bigger enemies were in other blue states, I think back to 2004. I was at every Red Sox Yankees game in Yankee Stadium, and it was literally like warfare. You go to they had a red Adidas jacket that said Boston on the back, and you'd be taking a piss, and beer cans are hitting you in the back. And then I get out to St. Louis for the Cardinals series, and the guy beside me looks at me and shakes my hand and goes, "May the best team win." I go, "What the fuck?" I go, I just came from freaking warfare to now. Not too nice. Don't be that nice.
Midwest nice, man. We're like that out here, It's so funny. I literally have friends visit me from the East Coast all the time because I have all the conventions here, right? And they're always like, one friend came out from Boston. She's like, what the fuck why is everybody so fucking nice here? I'm like, I don't know. We're chill.
I got to be, thank you, St. Louis, for allowing us to break the curse there. I got to be on the field in St. Louis in 2004, calling my then 86-year-old grandfather.
Wow.
Who was crying because he had lived his whole 86 years up until that point waiting for a World Series. So anyway, you can't talk about St. Louis and Busch.
Now we're gonna fight. Now we found something we disagree with. All right, so biggest thing, of course, you're gonna be Unite for Veterans, Unite for America. June 6th, D-Day, anniversary D-Day, just 3 weeks away on the Washington National Mall. But you've also got a tour coming up. I guess your tickets are on sale for the tour right now, right?
Yeah, we're on tour all this summer. The Summer of Discontent tour, us and our good friends Bad Religion. and it's going to be an awesome tour, and we are so pumped up to play with you guys and be there with you guys on June 6th and standing up for what's right in our country.
Man, really appreciate it. Man, looking forward to being in person in DC and hanging out with you a bit and see if we can't cause some good trouble together.
Thanks for all you're doing to organize this event. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you joining us, brother. So take it easy. Good luck. Keep up the fight.
Thank you.
Man, Ken Casey, welcome to Too Late to Cancel. What an honor and a pleasure it is to have you here, brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
that one was me. Well, Too Late to Cancel. This is how it goes, y'all. Just get used to it. You got to see JJ. So the first one was me. We discovered that if Fred touches the studio mode button, it puts JJ on screen. Anyway, you guys behind the scenes, producer Katie's back here going, you guys are on screen. You guys are on screen. So anyway, welcome to Sunday. It is a Sunday. We're live. It's a live show. That's how it goes. The first thing that JJ taught me when we did this together, we started working together ages ago. He's like, look, if it's a live show, they don't know you screwed up. Unfortunately, it seems like every Sunday you do know we screwed. So anyway, we're driving on. Hey, that was a great conversation. If you want to learn more about our march, I'm so thrilled. I'm booking my flights now. June 6th in DC on the National Mall. We've got our permits. We got Dropkick Murphys. We got our stages. I mean, it's going to be huge. We're expecting thousands of people. I will let you know there is going to be a live stream. So if you can't make it live, we understand it's hard to get to DC sometimes. It's an expensive time. It's everywhere about money, but there'll be a live stream of the event. And I do believe that our friends at Indivisible are organizing across the country. So it's going to be big. It's June 6th, the 81st anniversary of D-Day, Washington, D.C. I hope you'll join us. You can learn more about that at uniteforveterans.org. Now we got to move on to the fun part. So I forgot the programming note up front, you guys. So last week we had the Mother's Day show, and because it was Mother's Day, we decided to just do an hour so y'all could go to brunch, called the pre-brunch special. You know what? An hour was fun. And the other thing I noticed that is the panel. You guys know the panel is the fun part, right? We have amazing people. We have another amazing panel today. I just love it. And we thought, you know what? Let's end on a high note every week. So we're going to do an hour. We're going to do the interview. Then we're going to do our panel with the really cool people, and then we're going to let you go have fun on your Sunday. So that's the new show, an hour long. So we're thrilled to have it here. We're learning, you're learning. We're great to have you. A couple of thousand you're here, which is even cooler. So let's get on with it. Let's get on the last part of the show every week, the panel. We, as always, we collect the most amazing people. Booker, Anne Marie, and me and friends always come together, and here we are. We're going to bring the panel on. We've got Brittany Carney. She's a touring stand-up comedian starting in Washington, D.C., is now based in New York. She's making waves all over the place. She's just on a list, top 25 comics to watch for in 2025. Also returners, our good friend Eliza Orlins, beloved survivor and amazing race contestant, but also a New York public defender and a brilliant creator too. Let's bring the panel together. Let's talk.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, welcome in. It worked. It's working great. Good to see you again, Eliza. Brittany, so great. We've been talking this whole time backstage, y'all. So, man, wow, it's great to see you guys. I was talking earlier. You guys both have the most fascinating bios. Like, for those who don't know, Brittany you grew up in Japan till 9th grade. Yeah. And Eliza, you bounced back and forth to Hong Kong growing up. So y'all are like it's our international, and you're both in New York, so we never met. I love it when this happens. And Eliza, especially welcome you back, because I think last time we gave you 5 minutes notice and you jumped on the show.
Yeah, Charlotte wasn't well, and so I just jumped in last minute. But I had such a great time. I was excited to come back.
It was funny to get ready for returning guests. I always go back to the old script and I dig up their bio. Make sure I don't ask the same questions. There was no script last time because you jumped on in 5 minutes. So welcome to the show. Brittany, I was talking earlier, you were saying how your background's so fascinating. You grew up, in Japan. Why were you living in Japan, and how'd you end up in the United States in 9th grade?
Right. Good question. So my mom is from Japan. She grew up in northern Japan. She went to university in the US. So she met my dad in Philadelphia in the 70s. So essentially, I grew up in Japan because when I was born, my mom had already been, she began her finance career, moved back to Japan with my dad. So, so my sister and I were both born there, and we moved around a little bit. Like I spent 4th, 5th, 6th grade in Singapore. And then that was because of my mom's job. And we went back to Japan. And then when I was in 9th grade, that's when my mom's position for a number of factors, maybe also family related, because my dad's from Philly. She got transferred to Philadelphia, and so that was difficult for me to start the middle of 9th grade in an environment where everybody grew up around each other in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Was well, maybe like something to work through, but that's why now, especially since then, my parents have Philadelphia as home.
Yeah. And Eliza, you back and forth to Hong Kong. Your father ran a I guess what'd your dad do? He was a partnership, right?
Yes, but he's done a ton of things. So we spent a lot of time in China and in Hong Kong. So I went to nursery school in Beijing when I was a year and a half. Then went to elementary school, a couple of years of elementary school in Hong Kong at HKIS, which is the international school there. So I had friends from all over. I had friends from Singapore, friends from Canada, friends from Sweden. I mean, just very international in Hong Kong, but also spent a lot of time living in Beijing. You speak Japanese, I speak Mandarin. So, it's like it's like a fun, what a fun panel you brought together today, Fred.
I tell you what, I like international. My fiance, her father worked for an international company. So she grew up in Switzerland. And so, and then you got me. I grew up right here in St. Louis. And that's it. I literally grew up maybe 2 miles from the studio. So, here I'm back again.
Do you like the City Museum?
I love City Museum. City Museum is amazing. I always bring all my neighbors, and my kids, and it's fun for adults. So City Museum is this crazy thing they built in St. You guys. They put an airplane on top of this building that you can run through. It's a playground. 5 stories in the air. It's just it's a cool town. People don't realize how cool St. Louis is. It's
actually, cool I've been to St. Louis 3 times. I've been to the City Museum 5 times.
I love it. And our world-class zoo. My son came to visit, and he and his girlfriend spent 3 days at the zoo. So it was like, I'm plugging my city here. I'm like the St. Louis ambassador today of the show. It's just a great. Now, what museum did you work? You worked in a museum in DC, right?
Yeah, actually, I worked in many museums because I have a master's in public history from AU in DC. So I was working.
Okay.
Basically, like most of my positions were in museum education, so developing programming for K through 12 stuff at different museum sites. So I worked for a long time at this Abraham Lincoln Civil War site called Lincoln's Cottage, which is just in a quieter neighborhood within the perimeter of DC, and it's where he lived during his summers. And so the museum is dedicated to processing the emancipation and a place for reflection. So I worked there for 5 years, and then I also, while that was happening, worked at I worked at the American History Smithsonian for 2 years in a kids learning center, and then I had similar positions at I taught programming at the National Zoo, which is the Smithsonian. I worked at the National Portrait Gallery. I worked at the Tudor Place, which is like a historic house in Georgetown. I was like a research assistant for a while at the Anacostia Community Museum, which is a small Smithsonian site that's dedicated to Washingtonians of color. It's like the proto-Blacksonian.
Yeah.
So
I lived in that area for 12 years. So
you did? Right.
I was down in Virginia for 12 years.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Okay, so the connection
and I was
then
in
is
DC. I was in DC as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
you were in DC. That's where I was going.
That's so funny.
You guys should know each other. We'll connect you after. You guys should hang out. You got your emails.
Definitely.
I know.
I went to high school in DC. My mom still lives there. She's not far from AU. Yeah, so I'm there a fair amount.
In DC, did you go to high school?
Sidwell Friends.
I substitute taught at Sidwell when I was in
She went to Sidwell. I was going to say.
What a small world.
I saw that in your bio.
Where were you substitute teaching?
I was teaching, I was at the 6th grade humanities for a bit, but then I was predominantly at the lower school, so K through 4. And I remember, for example, my last name is Carney, right? And when I was long-term subbing this one 3rd grade class, and there was a kid in there named Della Carney. And our joke was that we were cousins, even though she's blonde hair and blue-eyed. And then ultimately, the teacher, the co-teacher was like, "Oh, you know who her father is?" And it was shoot, I'm forgetting his first name, but Carney was on Obama's cabinet.
Oh yeah, that tracks for Sidwell.
I'm forgetting.
That is Sidwell.
That tracks.
Anyway, my point about that story is that it was so interesting. All the kiddies were connected to powerful families in Washington.
Wow. Okay, so then of course, Eliza, you ended up in Survivor and reality, and now you're a public defender. And Brittany, you went all that bio we just heard, which is more impressive than my bio. And you're in comedy. I mean, you guys have had both of you have had some weird journeys to where you're at today. You know, I mean, how'd you fall into where? I think you told me last time, Eliza. How'd you make your way to being a public defender in New York?
So I was born and raised in Manhattan. Like, this was always where I was going to end up. But I went, after college, I was applying to law school. I knew I was pretty sure that I was going to be a public defender by then. I think in college, I did an internship in my current office in the public defender's office here in Manhattan. And I was like, yep, that's it. I found my dream job. Like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah. And so I the going on Survivor thing was like, it didn't change the trajectory of my life, because I was like, I'm going to law school, I'm going to become a public defender. But it was like kind of this really fun, interesting thing I did, which definitely changed a lot of elements of my life and like opened up my world in so many ways, because I got to meet so many people that I otherwise would never have come in contact with. Like even though New York is so diverse and so incredible, it's also kind of insular in that we don't meet people who, work for the Missouri Department of Transportation, who was one of the women on my season, in fact. And she was someone who I never, ever, ever would have come in contact with. And now we've been friends for over 20 years. And so it's just it was a fascinating life journey, but also it was something that I was laser focused on, the same way I was with law school. I had seen episode 1 of season 1 of Survivor with my family, along with 10 million other Americans. Yeah. And I looked at my mom and I go, Mom, I'm going to be on that show one day. And like the good, encouraging Jewish mom she is, she was like, of course you are, sweetheart. You can do anything. And now she says, be really careful what you tell your kids, because they believe you.
Yeah, no,
I'm kidding. She's the most encouraging mom, like just the best. And so as soon as I turned 21, I filmed my audition video on the front porch of my sorority house at Syracuse University. And I mailed it to Los Angeles on a VHS tape. The kids these days are like, you mailed your application video? They like hit upload. They film it on their iPhones. They hit upload. I'm like, yes, I mailed it. Like, we had to take the little tape bit and like record it to a bigger tape and send it to LA. And I got cast the first time I applied. So I was 21 the first time I went on the show.
And you're still lucky you're 21. And before, looking great. That's it. And then I'm going to ask the last question, Brittany. We're going to go to the panel picks. Brittany, you ended up in stand-up comedy. And I saw interviews with you. You talk about your, how you went to theater class when you're trying to learn English and all. And you got like 19 languages in your background. But how'd you end up falling into stand-up comedy?
Well, so yeah,
these stories. I love these stories because I ask every comedian, how'd you end up doing this?
I know, and it's like, I think when comedians are asked this, there's like a collective blank. Like, I'm like, I don't know, how did I stumble into this? Well, yeah, I had a theater background from high school and college, basically, and then I hadn't done anything performance-wise for years, and I was in grad school, and I didn't grow up on watching stand-up necessarily, but I really, when I was young, loved like all this British stuff from this like old BBC comedies, and I really loved Monty Python and things that Rowan Atkinson did, like Blackadder. So I had this interest in like the work of a humorist, but it's not like I really loved stand-up comedy specifically. It's just that when I was in DC and my master's program was winding down, I sort of randomly watched this show that was part of a local comedy festival. And now some of those names are doing really well. It's funny. It's like a time warp, but that sort of clued me into the fact that there was a local comedy scene, and I got curious about it. And then I went to watch local open mics and shows in little bars in DC, and I got really intrigued by it. A friend encouraged me to sign up for an open mic, and I felt like I don't know how to do that, but I did. And maybe it just gradually took over my life. But I sort of fell into it out of a combination of curiosity and maybe it could be like a vessel for sharing humor.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like me ended up being a podcasting at like 56 or 57. I was like, I didn't see this happen. I used to joke, middle-aged white guy with a podcast. Could I be any more cliche or stereotypical than I am? But here we are. Here you got with you fine folks. So let's bring up the panel picks while I got time with you guys. And the way this works, Eliza suffered through this once before. Look how fancy we are now, Eliza. I think you were on episode like 6. Wow. I know. You were still on Democracy Sunday then. I mean, we have gotten fancy since last time, Eliza. This is all pretty, not Fred. This is him, not me. But look at how fancy we are. So some of these will make sense, and them others. And Brittany, since you're a first timer, that you're still coming up, you'll get to pick the first one to discuss. Nothing should surprise you. Brittany, you're up.
Okay, wait. I pick one.
Yes, you pick one to talk about. Go.
Okay, DC versus New York versus Hong Kong.
There you go.
But so I just like talk about.
No. I'll ask you something.
So what do you think? So what's the difference? Okay. What's the difference between the three? You've done them all except Hong Kong.
I guess I have a lot of feelings about this without really feeling that experienced either. I went to Hong Kong when I was like 10 or 8, or actually I think I was 8 based on the friends that we went with. Anyway, so like I don't have that many memories of Hong Kong, but I have kid memories of Hong Kong, including that monorail. What is that thing? There's like a
the tram up to the peak?
The tram. That's really steep, relatively. I remember this. Yeah. I remember some experiences of food. I remember scenes of the city. So for much of my adult life, like obviously I feel familiar with other East Asian cities. I have not been back to Hong Kong as an adult. So I really feel drawn to it from afar. And I like watch, influencers on YouTube that bop around Hong Kong. So that's like, I definitely sort of, I feel sort of one with Hong Kong because of like my experiences in Singapore and Tokyo, but I also feel like it's its own distinct world that I want to learn about it as an adult. So that's like a big kind of sexy question mark in my head. DC versus New York. I really love both. I love DC. I feel sort of indebted to DC. I feel like it's where I learned how to become an adult because I was in grad school. Also, if I were not I could have gone to grad school in Philadelphia. I ultimately went to DC, which changed my life because of how I fell into comedy, and that has taken on proportions that I never imagined. And I think that is specifically because of this combination of elements where I was in a grad program there, feeling connected in that way, but then got opened up to this other side of DC, which was this creative dark underbelly.
We don't talk about it enough. There's a beautiful creative community in DC. It's a theater town in a lot of ways. And you this, Eliza, too. It's different than New York. I mean, those are very different cities in about 1,000 ways, right? I mean, when you move, going from DC to New York is quite a transition, I imagine, for you too, Eliza.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like DC, New York, Hong Kong, and if you add Beijing in, you've like captured all the cities that kind of have part of my heart, because I've spent formative years of my life in all of those places. Obviously I say New York is where I was born and where I will die, but I really believe that, when I get to DC, and especially when I get to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong has a certain smell. It's such a distinct smell to the city. It's like a little bit sweet, and in fact, like the translation of the words behind Hong Kong actually do mean something with regards to smell. I forget exactly at this moment what it was, but it's
no idea.
It just like it feels very much like home, and so does DC, and so does New York. So like they're all really special places to me.
Fascinating. Again, I lived in Korea for a year, and I adore Korea. I had the very good fortune of being a pilot there, so I got to see the country, like the whole peninsula,
Wow.
And it's a gorgeous. And I did a weekend down at Jeju Island, in the sea, and it just, again, it's those places are so beautiful. I think people miss out realizing the natural beauty of all those places too. I mean, I was very blessed with 22. I was 22, I think 23, living in Korea. You know, and like, okay, this is single. You know, just kind of experiencing the whole thing. I took the train everywhere, an adventure.
Yeah.
And this was in the 80s. You know, it's just a unique experience. I would wish for everyone to have that experience. You know,
where in Korea were you?
I was in Camp Page, which is up in Chuncheon, which is up in the north, almost dead center, about 20 miles south of the DMZ. I was a scout helicopter pilot.
Wow.
So yeah. I was there for the Olympics in 1988, which really dates me. You know, but the thing about Korea I loved is that we used to call it the land of the almost right. Because the English transitions weren't always quite correct. So I arrived and you're right. I mean, and I arrived and I walked through the airport. It was my first time. Honestly, I was a kid from St. Louis. I really was. And I walked to the airport and it was for the Olympics. And they had a huge banner. It said, and of course they had in Korean. And then below that was, "Welcome to Korea, land of the morning clam." And I said, I'm not making that up. Instead of the morning clam. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's the official, and this is an official banner from the government. So welcome to the land of the morning clam. I'm like, well, I do love morning clam, I guess. I don't know.
There were always things like that in China.
Right? Yeah, I love it. I'm just saying that stuff. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
It's a unique experience. Of course, this is when we had cell phone cameras. I would have got a picture of it, but it lives out of my memory. Bring in the pics, JJ. It's Eliza's turn. We are going long. Everybody's in the comments giving a shit about not being an hour-long show. I don't care what you say. You're not paying for it anyway. All right, so Eliza, you're up.
I think there's only one pick that I have to go with first, which is reality versus reality TV.
There you go. That's you. I mean, reality right now is pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I know.
The thing about your shows too, Survivor was like the backstabbing, the skullduggery, but now we live in Trump's America, so it's the same thing. You know?
And if you didn't hear the horrible news, you know, it sounds as though a producer who has produced Duck Dynasty and other reality TV shows has been pitching DHS, Kristi Noem specifically, saying that we should do a reality TV show that allows people to compete for a path to citizenship. Think American Idol, where people are like voting, but for people to get US citizenship. It's so dark. It's so dystopian. It's so grim out there. But, you know, reality is darker than reality TV. And I think, you know, everyone should just tune in for the Survivor finale on Wednesday night and try to like escape for a couple hours.
Yeah, no kidding. And you're trying to make sense of this on stage. And I've watched your act. I've watched your specials, Brittany. I mean,
thank you.
Good luck with that. You know, and you don't do political much. You do your humor. I love is, you know, you really don't touch politics, and and that's what I think makes it's a pleasure to watch your shows, because you like talking about, you know, your native language, and you know, it's fascinating to me to, you know, you don't do politics, and it's got to be hard in this time, right?
Yes, actually, it's funny because I don't think, right, I agree. I'm not a particularly political comedian. So there are moments where, because I'm just like a Black girl, I feel like the audience projecting onto me that either I'm going to be political or it inherently politicizes myself, even though I'm really, I'm not a political comedian. I think it's important to me to talk about what inspires me comedically, right? But then, like, it's bizarre. It does feel like, it feels like, especially because over the past month or so, I've been on the road to places where the audiences are not only blue, you know, it's more mixed. So you have to kind of like feel out what the vibe is. And there are ways to do that keep the energy of the room, because ultimately it's supposed to be comfortable and warm and conducive to laughter. But I mean, like, something is happening now in our little fascist spring where it feels like you can't have a set without addressing the political climate. And maybe that it felt like that the first Trump administration, because I was in DC throughout that, maybe. But now it's more pronounced. There's like a tension or something, or even though naturally audiences also might want to escape from it too. It just feels like it's in the air. Yeah,
it's hard to escape it. It's just, all right, panel picks one more time. We'll get 3 or 4. All right, so Brittany, your last. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's an obvious one for you, Brittany. I kind of set you up on that one.
Go with native languages.
There you go. Yeah, and you know, I mean, I barely speak English. You know,
your grammar's excellent to me. Native languages. Yeah, I love English. By the way,
you started with Japan, so you grew up speaking Japan or Japanese.
Yes.
Sorry, Japanese,
Yes,
right?
Japanese is my first language. Japanese is my
Wow.
first language. My dad spoke to me in English, but I didn't
That was where I was
respond
going.
until I was when I was 5. They put me into like an American kindergarten, and so I
Okay.
started speaking English then, and then to maintain Japanese as I grew up, basically through middle school and high school, so moving back and forth, I studied Japanese pretty formally, and then I spent a year at a university in Japan. So that really, I would say, like updated my Japanese to grown up Japanese, because until that point I had been communicating with my family or other little kids, or middle schoolers. So the experience being at a university was really critical for my like my adult environment or something. And so now I really enjoy using Japanese when I can. I consume a lot of media in Japanese to also keep up my listening. I've taken Arabic, Mandarin. I took French for a while. I really love languages. My dad is an ESL professor, so I think that I think I have very few skills, frankly, but I do like I have few skills, but I love learning about the nuances of language. And I also have this thing where I'm a pro. English is incredible. English is messed up and really there's so many roots to it, and it's such a complicated language. But I think I'm I advocate for the uniqueness of English as a language too.
Yeah, and then you do it professionally now. Both you do, and then I'll let the last question. I mean, Eliza, I said you flip back and forth between the U.S. and China. So you learned them both, or I mean, it's got to be. Those are very different languages.
I did. When I was a year and a half, I was speaking English and Chinese interchangeably, and then of course we moved back to New York, and so my parents, which I will never forgive them for, didn't keep up with my Chinese, even though, my dad is fluent. And then, we went back when I was 4, we went back, for elementary school. And then I really lost a lot of the Chinese that I knew in my childhood. And so then when I started taking Chinese, took in all of high school, and then I minored in Chinese in college, the formal study of it was incredibly challenging. Really, 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 it's a hard language to learn.
Yeah.
And it has taken, a lifetime of really putting in the work in order to be able to speak it and write it and keep up with it. It's a very difficult language, but I love knowing it. And my nephews are being raised bilingual. My sister married a German and lives there with them. And so she speaks to them in English. Their dad speaks to them in German. Their parents use English between them, but they go to they speak German in school.
That's so cool.
And so they spend a lot of time. They come back here for a month in the summer and stuff like that. And they spend time with us. And so obviously we're speaking a lot of English with them, but it'll be really interesting to see them grow up as these little bilingual kiddos. My 5-year-old nephew will speak to me and I'll be like,
it's such an important skill.
I'm like, Finn, Auntie doesn't understand you when you speak German. Can you say that back to me in English instead? And he goes, oh. And then he speaks English. Like, he understands. Like, he totally understands me.
That's how it worked. That's the way to get it right. I wish the two things I regret is the language skills and music skills. I didn't do any of those growing up. I was the sports guy, right? I was doing year-round sports and all. And then the funny story was I went to Iraq 3 times. And I worked directly with Iraqis. That was all my jobs in Iraq. Even though I was a pilot for the first one, I was working with the Iraqis, building clinics and schools, and I had Iraqi interpreters. And it was so funny. After the first year, that the Iraqis was like, "Are you good to learn Arabic? So you can." I'm like, "No, I'm employing the locals. If I learn your language, I'm going to put people out of work. I'm trying to, oh yeah, support the economy." I'm like, yeah, no, I'm an idiot. I can't learn it. So, ladies, I want to let you go. It is a hard one. That's a hard one. All right, so Brittany, this is the important part. Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they follow you? Watch your specials. I can't urge our followers enough to watch you. Where can they find you?
Please find me on Instagram at Brittany.goblin.carney. No,
I looked up like, this can't be right. This can't be her.
But it is, unfortunately. So that's where I post the most, I would say, about upcoming shows or projects I'm working on, and where I post about where I'm traveling. So
perfect.
And then also my YouTube special is a half hour. It's free and it's on YouTube. It's called That Is My Horse. This year I'm looking to film an hour, and we'll figure out where that will live. So stay tuned, I guess. But in the meantime, please watch my special on YouTube.
I love it. Eliza, you've got a great Substack. You're growing your own Substack community. I got Steve Hofstetter off your interview, by the way. Steve was on 2 weeks ago, thanks to you.
Oh, amazing.
And you got to love Substack. I just dropped in and say, Steve, come on my show, and he did. And, you know, the funny thing is, after you interviewed him, he was in St. Louis like 5 days later, so I got to meet
He's on like a 172 stop tour or something.
Oh, my God. It's nuts.
I mean, you comics, I don't know how you do it. It's really, it's off to you. Like,
Where can they find you, Eliza? Where can they find you? Because they got to find you.
So I've called my Substack Objection Everything. I'm always mad about things, you know, I'm just mad at the world. And I actually had a judge say to me once, Miss Orlins, must you always be at a 10? And I was like, actually, yes. But my Instagram is eOrlins. I'm Eliza Orlins on TikTok. I'm at Eliza.Orlins on YouTube. You know, I can be found everywhere. But if you go to my Instagram, my link tree is in my bio, which has literally all my social media. I'm posting everywhere, really trying to break down complex issues, you know, whether it's Supreme Court decisions or executive orders or other things that this administration is doing. Unlike Brittany, I am very political.
Yes. Well, we appreciate that.
But yeah, I would love to connect with everyone. And Fred, as always, it's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, I just love you both. Thank you so much for joining us. We have to get you back again. Brittany, let's get you back again. Keep track of it. We'll be watching you for your tour. I hope you show up in the Midwest sometime. Love to see you.
I would love that.
In the meantime, you guys, thanks for joining us on a Sunday morning. It means the world to us. I appreciate it. You know, enjoy your. I think it's a sunny day finally in New York, so I hope you enjoy your day.
It is. It is.
Perfect. Yes. All right. See you soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now. I love the panel. What a great show. I just we get the cool people, and it always ends up, if you guys watch the show regulars, we love the regulars. We find people, we find connections, and the panel, there's very little scripting to this. We just kind of figure it out as we go, and I'm just so blessed to have cool people join us. So thanks. Make sure you follow Brittany and Eliza. You do not want to miss these guys. We'll put them in the show notes. You can find them and all, so don't miss it. And then I'll put this on Substack later. They both have Substacks. We'll tag them there. So the cool thing is, you guys, a lot going on right now, obviously. So I'll start off the most important that we're gonna bring JJ. You're gonna see producer JJ on camera because he's participating in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and I think you should hear it from him instead of me. JJ, why don't you come? Let's see what JJ the producer actually looks like on purpose.
Nobody believes that I'm a real person.
He really exists, guys. See, you know, Vern, you guys, Yvonne, this is he's a real person. I've been accused of that, where people don't exist. The old show, I used to, you know, producer Matt, they thought I was talking to myself. So JJ, tell us about this Distinguished Gentleman's Ride.
So, Distinguished Gentleman's Ride has been going on from since 2012. It is a ride that happens in cities around the world. So, this year we've got almost 125,000 motorcycle riders heading out. They started, you know, when Sunday morning hit in Asia. Philippines is riding, in Singapore, and literally worldwide, 108 countries. Wow. 2012, we've raised almost $60 million for men's health, prostate cancer research, mental health. There are 1,037 rides that have occurred. Wow. And so I'm doing the one here in San Diego. I did the one in Fargo, North Dakota last year. And this is, we call them gentlefolk. So it's men and women who put on their finest old-fashioned duds and jump on their motorcycles. This year I'm riding my Vespa scooter. Last year I rode my big Kawasaki 1600. But it's a good, fun run with a bunch of folks that probably wouldn't normally go out on motorcycles because it's a lot of antiques and that kind of stuff. And we're just raising money for men's health. And so I'm going to be going here in about an hour and a half. I've got to go and fire a cycle and get ready to go. But it's an absolute blast. I'm running the console at the same time here. So I'm going to show you as we're doing this. Here's what it looks like when you join these runs. We're all putting on our finest duds and heading out on the road together. You've got men and women coming together, just having a blast, and raising $60 million so far for Men's Health. So it's just an amazing day of brotherhood and sisterhood, and having some fun and just being good all around people. It's one of those things where you, if you don't do it once, you'll say, I wish I got a chance to do it. So even if you have to jump on the back of somebody's bike and go check it out. But literally worldwide today, this is happening right now, all across the US, in cities, all across the world, wherever you're watching us at. So it's a very cool thing. Yeah. Isn't that cool?
It's so cool. That's amazing, dude. I'm glad you came on. Trying to make me do it. JJ, like, all right, here's what it is. I'm like, no, you're coming on. I'm not doing that. Plus, nobody knows you exist. And so that's amazing, JJ. I'm so glad you did that. Wonderful work and so important right now. And this is what the show's all about, right? We're trying to help folks out, and you're doing it for real. So thanks, brother. I guess let's wrap this thing up. I'll kick you out and I'll finish this thing up so you can get going and go ride your Vespa.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Bye,
JJ.
everybody. Never to be seen again.
There he is. That's him. I made him go on camera. So there you go. So a couple issues, as you know, I'm also participating in Unite for Veterans, Unite for America. Next week, I'll be in, June 6th, I'll be in DC. I hope you'll come see me there. I may or may not be on stage. I don't know. We don't know. We're figuring shit out still. But again, you can join us in DC or online. Unite for Veterans. Yeah, Unite 4veterans.org to learn more information about that. You can put in your email so we can email you updates about the event. We're hearing thousands are coming. We're going to let the government know that we won't accept our veterans benefits being stripped. We won't accept our veterans being fired from their jobs with no recourse. And we are going to fight for the Constitution we all swore an oath to uphold. One programming note, we will not be here next week. We are going to go ahead and take Memorial Day off. As you know, JJ and I are both veterans. I've lost soldiers in combat. Memorial Day is kind of heavy sometimes for us. So let's just acknowledge that, how important it is. If you understand, Memorial Day is to recognize those we lost in service restoration. I'll probably be going down to Jefferson Barracks Cemetery here in National Cemetery here in St. Louis to visit my father, who was a Marine in World War II, and my mother, who's buried with him right in Jefferson Barracks, a beautiful place. They always have a beautiful event for Memorial Day. That's where I'll be. Maybe we'll post a message about how important Memorial Day is for us. But we are going to take the week off because it's just appropriate. There's times that can be funny and there's times I can't. And Memorial Day is one of the ones I kind of skip over trying. So that said, we will be back the next week. June 1st, we'll be live. We'll attempt to be an hour-long show. I can't make any freaking promises at this point. But in the meantime, it's so important that you guys, I thank you for joining us. Last note, I'm on Substack, fpwellman.substack.com. We've got a huge crowd right now on Substack. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got 335 people on Substack. Thanks, Substackers. We appreciate you. It's fpwellman.substack.com. We are going to do our very first live Q&A with me Tuesday night on Substack for paid subscribers. I have so many folks reach out. They want to be part of a tighter community. So many of my peers, like my friend Alex Vimman and Eliza, are doing Q&A. Ruth Ben-Giat, my friend Ruth, they do live Q&As for their paid subscribers. We've got almost 500 of you guys, which is amazing. I love to have more. To support that, I'm running a huge sale. It's an It's May sale, 25% off for forever. If you upgrade to paid, that pays for things like this. It pays for producer Katie. Someday it's going to pay for producer JJ, who does this out of the goodness of his heart. In the meantime, your paid subscription helps pay for the entire community of work that we do. This is our jobs, if you will. So if you go to my substack.com, substack.fp1.substack.com, it's May special, 25% off forever. It's a great deal. I will see those of you who are paid subscribers on Tuesday night. Bring your questions. I'll answer as many as I can, and we'll shoot you straight. I look forward to talking to you. Invite will go out tonight for that. In the meantime, folks, it's a tough time. Have a laugh. Take a break. Don't take yourself too seriously. Obviously, we don't take ourselves too seriously here because this is important work, and you've got to take a knee every now and then and keep up the fight. In the meantime, let's do that. Keep up the fight. I'm Fred Wellman. This is Too Late to Cancel. We will see you in 2 weeks.